We've already done the commercial, so that's it. That's all we need to do.
Yeah, excellent.
Except say goodbye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Is that it?
This is the AT Banter podcast, a balanced and entertaining look at assistive technology, accessibility, and its importance in people's lives. Join Rob Minot, Ryan Fleury, and Steve Barclay as they banter with people around the world about anything and everything regarding assistive technology and the disability community. Now, on with the show.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter. My name is Rob Minot. Joining me today, Mr. Ryan Fleury.
Hey.
And he's back.
It must be me then.
He is back, Mr. Steve Barclay.
Yay, I'm back.
Yeah, it feels like it's been forever since we've recorded just the three of us.
Just the three of us. We can make it if we try. Just the three of us.
Yeah, no, it has been. It has been a while. I don't even remember I guess it was the Christmas show, I think was the last time that we recorded all together. Ever since then, our schedules have been cray-cray.
Yepers.
But yeah, so it feels good. Feels good to be back in the Guitar Dungeon for a new year, 2019.
The Rat Dungeon.
Yeah, how about
you
that?
You want to talk about that?
No.
You don't want to talk about that? The guitar, the rats are learning guitar. Let's just go with that.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, well, hey, listen, at least you didn't find a rat in your soup like that.
I heard that's fake, but...
No, it's not fake.
I heard she made it up. But...
No, they found a rat in the soup, but the soup didn't come from their kitchen. They brought it in from another kitchen.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah, they make...
okay.
Yeah, so for those people who aren't local that may not know what the heck we're talking about or care, we're going to tell you anyways.
Oh, you're going to care.
Yeah, there was a local, what was it, a clam chowder? It was a seafood, I think, restaurant.
Yeah, and they had these bread bowls with seafood chowder in them, and somebody tucked into their lovely seafood chowder bread bowl and discovered there was a rat inside.
Yeah, and the YouTube video went viral and made a bit of a splash here. So
yeah,
rat soup.
Rat.
Some people probably love it.
I don't think anybody actually loves it.
Bet you there are people.
I don't think there are.
Bet you it tastes like chicken.
I don't think you're right.
It might if you skin it first, but I doubt anybody took the time to skin it.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
No hair caught in your teeth.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel bad for the rat, to be honest. That's gotta suck. I mean, what was he doing? Like he fell into the.
He died happy, rolling in dough.
You don't know that.
Yeah. He probably wrapped himself up in that bread and just, oh, this is so warm in this oven. Oh, so
I mean, what would happen if you fell into a whiskey vat?
He'd be so happy.
Well, for a while, I feel like there'd be initially, you'd be like, okay, this isn't so bad.
You've heard that old joke, right? About the manager of the whiskey distillery shows up at this woman's front door and says, oh, Mrs. O'Connell, I'm terribly, terribly sorry, but your husband died at work today. She says, oh my God, what happened? He says, oh, well, he fell into the whiskey vat and he drowned. She says, oh, that's terrible. Did he suffer much? He said, well, a little bit. We pulled him out 3 times, but he jumped back in.
Off to a stellar start.
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan.
Rob.
What are we doing today?
Today we're talking with Tom Perski from IrisVision.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah,
The legendary Tom Perski.
Is he legendary?
Oh, legendary. Absolutely.
Well, let's plug him a little bit.
Okay.
Who is he?
Well, he's this guy.
No, actually, we should talk a little bit about the IrisVision. Because the IrisVision is actually a pretty popular little device at the moment.
Well, it's actually crazy popular right now. It's our number one selling head-worn CCTV system, and for good reason. It's one of the cheapest ones on the market right now. It also has the widest field of view of any of the head-worn systems on the market right now, and some pretty funky little features built into it that are quite unique and really, really well thought out.
No, I'm telling you, wearables are very popular.
Hey, Tom.
Hi, how's it going?
So in the room with me, Tom, I've got Rob Minot.
Hello.
And I've got Steve Barkley.
Hey, Tom.
Hi, Steve. How's it going?
Not too badly.
Well, listen, hey, thanks for taking some time and chatting with us about IrisVision.
Sure.
Well, why don't we start out and just sort of explain for the audience and anyone who's maybe not familiar with the product, just maybe give us a bit of a product overview.
Sure. The IrisVision headset is technology that's been developed with help from scientists from Johns Hopkins University, Stanford University, UC Berkeley, and they decided to use at the very beginning the current consumer product, the Samsung virtual reality headset. This idea allowed us to offer thousands of dollars less than anything that had been on the market because we didn't have to build a camera or a headset. We were specialists in the whole area of software development. So when a consumer goes to Best Buy or other retail outlets and they've seen perhaps a virtual reality headset and they know already what it looks like, it uses a smartphone system that's in front of the headset, which includes some optical magnification lenses inside the headset. So imagine if you're holding a very large screen like smartphone right in front of your eyes, and then having the magnification inside the headset make that screen look like a large TV, literally right in front of you. So it's a very immersive view, which many wearables on the market don't have large screens and don't have them magnified up close to your eyes. In our field of low vision, we call it relative distance magnification. That is, the closer something is to you, the more satisfying and colorful and bright that it is. And that's what IrisVision offers. It has a headset that is goes around kind of your forehead and the side of your head, and it blocks out all light from the side. So it works very, very well outdoors. You can literally stand in the bright sunlight and use it, or in any kind of environment where there's lights coming in. And the simplicity of it, there's no cord running down to a remote control unit. Everything is built in right to the side of the headset, which is basically a touchpad, which allows a person to use their index finger to make some swiping motions in towards their ear or out away from you. And so the magnification is variable. So for distance, for instance, you're going from about 1x to 12x, and then reading, because it's so close, it's actually about 20 to 24x for reading. And what's pretty impressive about the speed of the camera and the processor is that when you look down to read, and then you look away, maybe look up to see faces or see TV, and then look back down again, it's instantly focused. So it just changes immediately when you go to look. So in any environment, whether you're looking close, we call it near or intermediate or distance tasks on your everyday use of a low vision device and technology like this, you're getting, bright immersive images with instant focus.
Now, what eye conditions are generally serviced the best by the device?
So it was initially built and commercialized in the spring of 2017. And it was built at first for those with age-related macular degeneration or eye conditions that have a central vision loss, such as I have myself, a person with Stargardt macular dystrophy, which is an inherited macular degeneration. There are many of those types of things. Eye conditions like diabetic retinopathy, optic nerve atrophy, albinism, many eye conditions that respond well to the IrisVision. And then within this last several months, we worked hard at building a mode that you can just press the mode button and go to, we call it an RP mode. And this mode is used for patients with field restrictions, such as glaucoma or retinitis pigmentosa. So imagine that if you have lost some of your side vision and you have a restricted field of view, you can take the entire image that is projected, which is 70 degrees, and with a touch pad, moving your index finger slowly down the pad, you can take that image, the full image, and scrunch it down right into the area where the vision remains from, for instance, like glaucoma. Or let's say you have retinitis pigmentosa, which is more of a even more restricted field of view, like tunnel vision. You can just keep moving your finger down and move that whole image so that you don't lose anything in the context right into the area where your vision still remains. What's interesting for people with field restrictions like that, of course, is it's different when you look 10 feet away and then you look 2 feet away and then you look 20 feet away. There's no device that's ever been developed that can minimize and bring that image in, but can be changed on the fly. So by just in all those situations when you're looking at something, you just move your finger slowly up or down the touchpad to bring the best image for your field restriction on the display unit. It works really well for, but as I mentioned, glaucoma and other field restricting diseases.
Now, sort of the wearable market, it's such a new. Well, I mean, I guess it's kind of new. I mean, certainly in the past there have been wearable devices, but really, to be honest, the technology just wasn't quite there yet to really make them either palpable for the consumer. But now it kind of is, but it's still a very new market. Do you guys find it a bit challenging developing for that market in terms of, it's really like trying to hit a moving target because the technology is constantly changing? We
have built the company just within the last year with senior and junior developers. We've expanded the resources both for software development and research. We're doing quite a bit of research projects, as well as getting feedback from, many practitioners in some of the major hospitals in eye centers around the country. So now it's just, it's almost we're able to make updates to the device almost every other month. Sometimes small updates, sometimes larger. And because it's a Wi-Fi enabled product, we can push those updates to the device through Wi-Fi, which is no other company has that capability. And or what's really great is being able to troubleshoot if a person lives, in a rural area and they think they have a problem with the device, they can call us. We can log into their device, usually fix it in 3 or 4 minutes without having to travel to somebody's home and so forth. So, but these updates or whatever are so new and no one has really done these before. So what we're about to launch is some very new and exciting things that no one's ever seen in a headset device. I'm talking about just several weeks from now, being able to, for instance, build a digital content right inside the headset. And that will open a whole world of everything from a possible thing like Netflix or YouTube or other things that can be displayed in the device itself. So, for instance, when a person there's a button, a mode button that can actually take currently a photograph. Let's say if you're looking across the room at your family, you can take a picture, and then by using the touchpad, you can swipe in and make the movie screen that you're looking at larger and larger and larger. It gets horizontally and vertically bigger and bigger. So a person with poor vision can take a photograph or a photograph of a page of a book and display it virtually right in front of them. So that movie screen, that big 70-degree field, can be expanded. And now we're going to be able to use that for the future for all kinds of digital content, which we're really excited about. So things are moving fast, that's for sure. But we will be leading the charge in other companies that haven't even thought of these kinds of approaches yet. And we're pretty excited about it.
So could you speak to us a little bit about what the advantages are of using as a platform a mainstream device like the Samsung VR?
Yeah, we're really not manufacturing anything. We're, and Samsung has been a great partner with us together to help us to have the hardware working really well for us. But all the processing power, all of the camera, the best camera on the market, the best processor, fastest processor on the market, is just a great help to our advantage to be able to do and build this proprietary whole environment that works for people with low vision. And so, it's if you compare to some of the other wearables that have been on the market in the $6,000 range, $10,000 range,
right.
To be able to here in the U.S. Retail at $2,500, it's pretty amazing.
Let's actually circle back a little bit on the
Sure.
the competition, because there is some competition in this space, but there's some pretty significant differences in pricing, and obviously some differences in features too. Where do you see yourself in the mix with your competition?
In the arena that I mentioned, being able to continue to update and offer features with an in-house developers that work daily with the software team. It's going to be hard for our competition to keep up. We see ourselves already currently going to be way ahead of the curve. And of course, there's always going to be more competition. There's going to be more probably in the wearable market. My guess is this next year we may even see 2 or 3, brand new devices that we haven't seen before. So, wearables are what's really taken over, and many people don't even realize it yet. But, I can see that 5-6 years out from now, there may not be many of the legacy devices like the closed circuit TV, because these kinds of wearable devices will be what people will be using for so many different tasks that a standard like desktop unit cannot provide. With our mobile society, is just the way it is. So we see ourselves as being a leader and being able to offer the best pricing, the best features, the remote help and support, the upgradability, and for the consumer. I know for myself, when I began to look and use, I was a senior vice president of the Chicago Lighthouse for 10 years. We had the largest, we saw the largest number of patients for low vision in the United States, and we were able to do comparative studies, which was great for the consumer also, because they could come to the Lighthouse and they could see all the wearables that were on the market, and actually in the same day compare them and contrast them. And IrisVision at that time, which was about a year ago, was selling about 15 to 1 over the other wearables, not just because of price, but because, as I mentioned, some of the functionality and the immersive view is really so helpful for so many people.
Hey, Steve, why don't you tell the fine folks about Canadian Assistive Technology?
Well, Canadian Assistive Technology is a Canadian-based distributor of, guess what? Assistive technology.
I would not have guessed that.
Really? Oh, I got to work something better into the name then. And we do all kinds of low vision and blindness aids, as well as all kinds of physical access aids and accessible furniture. You name it. Visit our website at www.canastech.com.
Rick, let me ask you about this. Chaos Technical Services.
Chaos Technical Services.
Don't sound so excited about it. Woo! Speaking of repairs.
We are the sister company to Canastech. We do the repairs on low vision devices, reading machines, for libraries, braille printers, and pretty well anything in between. We can be found at www.chaostechnicalservices.com.
It seems to me that the real benefit to both the IrisVision and there are other products that are like this, mainly ones that are built on mainstream products or technology. They're able to introduce new features into the existing product base without as much of a problem as it used to be. It used to be where a lot of AT was just it was developed. It was all proprietary technology, and that was what you got, and that's how it remained with those features until a new version, say, was released down the road. But these days, you guys are able to sort of introduce all these new features and new design elements into products that are already out there on the marketplace. So do you really feel that difference when it comes to developing product these days?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of difference, and as I mentioned, we're going to be launching a major, many new features that have never been seen before, just in several weeks with the headset and what we're calling the IrisVision operating system 3.0. Other companies that have developed generation products have had to, scrap the old hardware and build a lighter and thinner and better device. And those who unfortunately bought the first generation device, now that they're on the third generation device, cannot, incorporate the new features that are there. So there's other companies that will, and probably, as I mentioned, the new companies that will be entering the marketplace that will be able to soon upgrade and be able to, which will be able to help, all the consumers. But we feel right now that we are definitely the leader, and stay tuned for things that are soon to come.
It's actually really interesting too that you're using this, a VR platform to do this, because especially with the state of VR as it is. It really is, even as a mainstream technology, it really hasn't penetrated the market as much as I think the makers of this technology were hoping for. And it was sort of a similar situation, I feel like, with the Google Glass. When the Google Glass first came out, mainstream people didn't really know what to do with it, but yet, makers of AT sort of took that platform and were able to build some really, really super powerful and useful AT out of it. And so do you kind of get that sense with the VR platform that really it's actually a very powerful visual impairment aid, but as a mainstream technology, it may not really take off yet.
Yeah, and it's been really interesting working closely, for instance, as I mentioned, with Samsung. Their chief medical officer, Dr. David Rue, is talking about Samsung's ability to work with other companies for what he calls it therapeutic virtual reality or therapeutic VR. So it's used in medical situations. It's used to help persons who have difficulty, for instance, entering an MRI machine where they panic, and they can actually go through a protocol where they can learn to desensitize themselves. For people who are in extreme amounts of pain, they've already proven that it can reduce pain for a 2 or 3 hour period for patients who need help, and then using VR in all kinds of interesting ways. And so our company is looking at some medical sorts of treatments or ideas of actually being able to, for instance, we're working closely with Dr. Jeff Goldberg, who's the chairman at Stanford University. He's a glaucoma specialist. And for instance, those who have had a severe vision impairment where their eye and their brain are not receiving the full image that the brain suggests, there's degeneration that happens in the neural pathways between the eye and the brain. So imagine now wearing VR, being able to get the image that the brain really likes, may slow down the progression or even be a treatment for eye conditions like glaucoma. We're working closely with the World Health Organization and being able to use the digital image to take a picture of the front of the eye for an eye disease that blinds people in underdeveloped countries around the world, called trachoma. And this imaging can be sent back to a headquarters, and persons can maybe receive antibiotics to help them with their beginning stages of their eye disease. So we may someday rule out, currently there's 20 million people with trachoma. The potential of 200 million people getting it could be wiped out in a matter of a year or two. Or these things have never been tried before. And so there's a part of our company that many consumers don't know about, that we're involved in these kinds of studies and this kind of medical uses.
And Tom, I'm totally blind, so I've never actually experienced VR. And maybe Rob and Steve can answer this, but I've heard that a fair number of people who actually try VR can only last a few minutes because they get motion sickness or nauseous, or does the IrisVision affect people with low vision the same way?
We do see that. It does happen. I would say not super frequently, but maybe, I don't know, in my experience, maybe 1 out of 30 people may have a little aversion or begin to have motion sickness. When working with our founder, Dr. Frank Werblin at Berkeley, he's the neuroscientist, helped us to understand the studies, and what it basically says is many of those people with practice can overcome that within approximately a day and a half to 2 days. And it seems like a great majority of people can do that. There are some that just obviously just can't get over it at all, but most people can. And that brings up kind of a whole thing about practice. When you're zooming in and you're using a product like this, just like many other technologies, there really needs to be 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, 20 minutes in the evening, using it every day for a consumer to get their eye and their brain learning how to zoom in. Of course, when you zoom in on something and you magnify it, you want to look at the clock on the wall, you lose your place. It's like, where did the clock go? I didn't see it. So these things are just, aiming, learning to practice. And then as we go into reading, you're not going to pick this up and read the newspaper if you have a very severe vision impairment. I mean, our product works really well for people who are 2200, 2400. We even have some young people that do really well at 20/800 with eye conditions like Leber's. But what we found is, I developed a sort of a practice schedule in a reading binder where we'd start with larger print with more space in between each line, and then being able to, over over several week period, help somebody understand that if they do it every day and they get used to zooming in, they get used to aiming correctly, that it takes, several weeks, but over time that they can convince themselves that they get better and better and better. So we always talk about practice, 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 practice.
Yeah, and I have a buddy that generally, like, he will get motion sickness fairly regularly. Like he can't play like first person shooter video games or anything because he'll get nauseous. But yet he has an Oculus Rift headset, and he games quite frequently with it, and he doesn't really have any problems with motion sickness. So wherever the technology is at, I think that they're getting pretty close to being able to decrease the incidence of motion sickness.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get better.
And for those who have not seen a virtual reality movie, and these are things that I'm sure we'll have the capability of doing down the road. But I watched one where you're on a roller coaster, so you can look down if you're up high, and you can look to side, and so there's a 360-degree movie. And what I was shocked at is I turned all the way around in my seat on the roller coaster, and I could see the kids behind me screaming as we went down the hill. And I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it really is an amazing technology. It's funny. I feel like we're right on the cusp of it really becoming, ubiquitous. I think the price point just isn't quite there for the mainstream to really jump on board with it. And as a result, you don't have the numbers of people buying the platforms. So you don't have as many developers developing content for them. So even the people that are buying into the platform, there's not a lot of content, and it just ends up sitting on a shelf collecting dust. But once it does, it's going to be really incredible technology. And it's funny. I hadn't even really thought about all the medical applications to it, but it did remind me. You talking about that did remind me of a piece that I saw about a seniors home using VR headsets to help treat dementia. Putting somebody suffering from dementia into a scene of a beach or something can be really calming to them and help them sort of engage and associate with memories and stuff. So there's all kinds of therapeutic applications for this technology that certainly go way far above and beyond just gaming or entertainment or movies.
Yeah, I worked when I was in Chicago. I worked with a company called Embodied Labs, and what they were targeting medical professionals. So imagine that you put on a VR headset, and you're watching the doctor interview you, and you as the patient now with the VR headset have severe macular degeneration and maybe some severe hearing loss. And so by teaching medical professionals, for instance, what it's like to walk into a doctor's office and have the nurse talk to you or have the doctor interview you, I thought to myself, wow, I'd like some family members to try this out so they can understand what I live with every day.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. It was very realistic, yeah.
I want to share a user story with you, Tom. One of my customers who bought an IrisVision about 2 months ago, I guess now, he took it on safari to South Africa. And
oh my gosh.
When he got to South Africa, the day that they were going out on their safari, for some reason something went wrong and the unit stopped working. So they called in a panic. I hooked them up with your technicians. They went down to the hotel lobby, joined the Wi-Fi in the hotel lobby. Your guys got them straightened out in about 10 minutes. They went off on their safari and they had a great time, and it worked fantastically apparently for the safari.
Wow, that is an amazing story. Yeah. And that's really what technology can do in changing, being able to take advantage and do things that we never thought were even possible. I was an art student as a young man, and so I studied at the Chicago Art Institute, and I was a painter and myself, and I was always good at art, so that's what I stuck with. And I lost vision. I was diagnosed at 19 years old, and slowly over a couple of years, I had to drop out of college. And later, with the help of CCTV technology, I was able to go back to college and graduate school. But in the last 40 years, I have really not been able to enjoy. And so the first thing I thought of was, I'm going to the Chicago Art Institute. I remember the paintings that I loved, and it's been 40 years since I've seen them. And I anticipated I would be able to see them pretty well. I've used a small telescope with a small field of view to see things in the distance. But when I'm standing 6 feet away from a Renoir painting and I zoom in and the colors and the brush strokes, but what blew me away was the field of view. I could see the entire painting all at one time. And my brain actually made like a little sound, like a click or something. And I'm thinking, what in the world was that? And I think because I had that painting in my visual memory, my brain thought I could see again. And the tears started coming down the side of my cheeks, and I just couldn't believe it. And so I tell people, things that you're going to be able to recover that you couldn't do before. Think about going on a cruise. We had a gentleman that signed up and went on a cruise. People going to museums again. In Australia, we have been working with Vision Australia, a nonprofit organization. One of the fellows that I demonstrated to was a paleontologist, and basically is out in the field now again with his IrisVision, doing his work and publishing what his findings are. So everybody's life is different, but many of the things that we all had to give up can be restored again, and it's a great feeling.
So, any other new features you can tell us about at this point?
So, one of the things that is coming for sure will be the OCR technology.
Okay.
So, being able to take a picture of the page and being able to have it read out loud, which there's several wearables now that have that. We built one a couple months ago, and I just wasn't satisfied with it, so we just decided to make it better than everyone else's OCR and just take a few extra months. So we're excited about that. One of the other features that because of my art background, and I always have been good at photography and landscape photography and so forth, was the ability to take pictures, to, of course, zoom in on them, but then we had no way to save those images. And I was thinking of older people maybe who are watching their grandchildren play and all the faces that they make. And wouldn't it be great to take 20 or 30 pictures of your grandchildren and then go home and really enjoy it again? And so we will have a photo album will be one of the many features that we'll be introducing in this next version 3.0.
Excellent.
Well, let me just ask the room this, because all of us here, we've all been sort of involved in the AT field for many years, and especially the the visual impairment community. Let me ask you about the state of, say, the desktop CCTVs and now the wearables. Do you ever see a point where wearables would actually just replace desktop CCTVs altogether? Would they ever be able to do that?
Not necessarily, I don't think.
Yeah.
Maybe Tom will disagree with me, but I think that there's different technologies that work well for different eye conditions, and wearables don't necessarily work well for everybody. At least not in their current form. Maybe as fields of view expand, then maybe that'll change. But there's still eye conditions where people need to make more use of their peripheral vision than they're able to through a headset currently.
I see.
And one of the things that will be involved in with the software team will be the use of what's called eccentric viewing, which is a visual skill that people need to understand in practice in order to maintain and use their peripheral vision better. And so I'll be building a regiment right inside the device that will help somebody understand where their blind spot is, and then not only find and be able to move that spot out of the way so they can get even a better picture, which is one of the things that I coach people now when I show the unit, when I have them learn how to move their eye without the unit, and then when they put the unit on, for instance, somebody's blind spot may be very large. If I look at somebody without the unit on 5 feet away, I might not see their entire head. That's how large my blind spot is. So when I put the IrisVision on, I can see now their eyes and their cheeks and their chin and their lips, but the blind spot might be covering their entire center of the face, the nose. So by moving my eye up and to the right slightly, now that blind spot is out of the way. What's difficult for people who don't know how to do that is as soon as they blink or whatever, the brain puts that blind spot right back in the middle again. And so there's a practice regimen that would help people to, we call it fixate and hold their blind spot in specific situations, like you want to see the color of somebody's eyes or something very detailed like that. And then to be able to build that into the software to teach somebody how to do that better and better. So that will come in, and it's a little more sophisticated than what's on the market. I always thought CCTV companies should have built that into their software years ago. But those who need, 60 times magnification may do better on a CCTV. I would have to admit that.
Right.
But we don't know yet. I remember when there was only desktop units and not the portable units. And so it was interesting to me, like in Chicago, when people would come in and they'd say, I want the large desktop unit and I want the small one. And so we're finding that, for instance, one of our distributors in Florida has kept track and has been selling IrisVision now for over a year. And 65% of his customers already own a desktop CCTV. So I guess, you could say it's a little bit of both,
Sure.
Reading and writing, maybe on a desktop, might not ever go away. But IrisVision offers, that plus other things that are new and exciting to people. So
well, it's hard
we'll
to
see
take.
where it goes.
It's hard to take a 27-inch CCTV off your desk and out to the mall.
Yeah, right. Or even from room to room. Yeah,
Yeah, it's for sure.
Be able to sit in the easy chair. I'll take a picture, for instance, of a book, or a mail comes in, and what's neat for me is I'm 6'5", so to bend over and look at a screen or a magnifying glass has always been a pain for me. So when I hold up the book with the IrisVision, I look up above my eye level and take a picture of the page, and then I set the page down, sit in my easy chair with my head in a normal upright position, make that movie screen nice and big, and then pan my head from left to right and read the letter right in front of me in a comfortable chair. So these are kind of things we've never been able to do before.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It's an exciting time for the low vision field, because this technology is only getting better, and it is incredibly freeing. And not only that, it's versatile, which is so great to see. It's so great to see that products like the IrisVision, that you guys are able to push out all these new features and constantly be improving on the platform without any extra cost to the consumer who have already purchased the device. So.
And I think what will happen for the future, and it's only realistic, that there will be costs for the future because as hardware changes,
sure,
we can do push software changes, but eventually, just like your iPhone or your Samsung phone,
right?
Eventually, you'll come to the stage where, do I want the newest and greatest features, or am I okay with what I'm currently having? So we're looking at that very closely. As a matter of fact, it sort of ties in together with pricing for the future. You know, there may be a day where you get a much lower price or down payment, similar to a phone plan, and then you pay whatever, $99 a month, something like that, for your device, and over a year, whatever, 2-year contract, something like that. And then as you continue to pay those fees, you get the latest and greatest hardware and software. And it's something that we've looked at real closely and are considering.
Real briefly, can we talk a little bit about the actual hardware in terms of like how often does it change? Like does Samsung come out with a new version of the headset fairly regularly? I can imagine that as the technology improves and the screens inside the unit get better, the actual unit probably gets lighter. Is that right? And how often does that happen?
So that's an interesting question. The whole headset is about 15 ounces. And so the newest hardware change just recently occurred to the S8. It's a much thinner smartphone, but it's also bigger. It's also wider, or top to bottom, it's a bigger phone. So, it's going to be similar to, if you think about smartphone technology, and what would you say, 3 to 4 years, something like that. You're at a point where do I really want to, buy a new one or not? And then the other issue, as I mentioned, is do you want to have to? You won't have to buy a brand new headset and a brand new phone if you upgrade your technology and pay the full retail price. That doesn't make sense. So if there's other pricing ways you want to be the guy that always has the latest and the greatest, perhaps a payment plan idea similar to a phone plan would be instituted. I think that's where we're going to see things change in the future.
Well, I think the other thing that would be really handy for people too is if there was, a mainstream headset that you could dock your own phone into, whether it's a Pixel 3 XL, a Samsung. You don't have to have a specific device. Yeah, you could use your own device.
Well, and I think they do have those. They do have headsets like that where you can just plug in your own phone.
Well, there's Google Glass types of setups.
Yeah,
they don't have all the features.
Exactly.
A couple brands. Zeiss has one where you can use your own phone and so forth. So, the whole issue of using it as a telephone too is not possible at this time. But maybe someday that'll be. But with the digital content that I mentioned, I think in the future we will be able to easily do texting with your voice or email, voice commands, things like that will be a natural part of what the upgrades will include.
Well, if you've got Wi-Fi, you could do Skype calling.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Right. Yeah.
But it's interesting, the consumer attitude these days, because I think more and more as consumers, we really are demanding these devices that do everything. Like the consumer dream is just having that one device that can do everything. We've really gotten away from the days when you had a phone, but then you also had a...
Well, it's a blind or visually impaired person. You'd have your portable CCTV. You'd have your Daisy book player. You'd have your phone. You'd have your, 4 or 5 devices in your backpack. Your sunglasses,
your pocket magnifier. I think our research in our field says that the good low vision user has 6 to 8 different devices on a daily basis. Their software for their computer, their sunglasses, their you name it. Right? Yeah. There's so many things. Yeah.
And more and more, it's just going to get to the day where it's just going to be all in one device. And hopefully that device is universally designed so it just works for anybody no matter what.
One day.
That's the dream.
That's the dream.
Okay, IrisVision, make me coffee.
That's right.
Yeah, you should incorporate Alexa or the Google Assistant. And I can just have a smart plug with my coffee pot plugged into it.
That's not a bad idea.
We'll be all walking around someday, all of us low vision people, waving to each other across the street and talking to Alexa at the same time. It'll be a wild ride.
Yeah, honestly,
we'll be just like the sighted people walking and texting and bumping into posts.
We'll all be wearing the same devices. Yeah, that's right. We'll all be walking into posts. Well, listen, Tom, hey, we want to thank you so much for joining us. It was great conversation. Can you tell us anybody who wants to find out more information about the IrisVision, where can they find you online?
Yes, they can at our website, IrisVision.com, IrisVision.com. And we are building a brand new website also. This probably will launch in 2 weeks or so. But
you guys are busy.
If you go to YouTube and just type in IrisVision, you will see lots and lots of neat videos and research articles. And Dr. David Rue, I mentioned this, he lectured recently at the Vatican with a big medical group, talked a lot about IrisVision. If you type in Tom Perski, you'll get 1 million YouTube hits because I've been in the field over 30 years. But people can feel free to call me. My phone number is 312-560-1823. And I'm available just to talk to. Sometimes, it's just one or two main questions that people have that you can't find on a website or in a video. So we're always open to doing that. IrisVision toll-free number is 855-207-6665. And you can talk to many of our staff and both sales and support. We offer, as I mentioned, support and remote support. There's no limit as how many times you can call us. So if you have lots of questions, that's fine with us, and we're not going to limit that for any of our users.
Awesome. Well, we'll be sure to include the website address in our show notes as well.
All right. Terrific. I enjoyed it very much.
All right, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Well, I mean, I have to say, like, wearables, man, wearables.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really see in 5 years, the technology is just going to get better and better, and the headsets are going to get lighter and lighter. I really feel like it's going to get to the point where it's just going to look like a pair of regular glasses.
Yeah, and there are other platforms out there that are kind of making that foray into looking like regular glasses. The guys from Vuzix, I believe, Ryan, you sent me an article on that a while back. They've got a new pair of glasses with a front-facing camera and a little virtual reality display, similar to the Google
Glass,
Google glasses.
Yeah.
One, they look really dorky, and two, the display's really small.
Right.
So not really appropriate necessarily for a visually impaired crowd, unless you activate the speech out features on it, which actually do work fairly well. But we're going to see this technology get smaller, lighter, more directed towards the mainstream, and that's all going to be good for the pricing. And when guys like Tom and his crew can come around and write a piece of software that retasks it to something more specific, that's always great.
Yep.
Because it just keeps that price down.
Well, and just think, it was a number of years now that I think it was Intel came out with a pair of smart glasses, and they look, from my understanding, fairly close to regular eyeglasses, but in the bottom corner of the screen would be kind of like a little heads-up display, so you could actually see your GPS directions, or you could actually pull up information. We're not that far away from even something like the Orcam. You take that little camera and mount it into, the frame of glasses, and now you've got your built-in camera into your frames, with your AfterShokz Bluetooth bone conduction as well, and a heads-up display feeding you information. Like, we're not that far.
No, well, you know, these new Vuzix glasses do have the heads-up display. They do have the front-facing camera. They do have speech output, and they do have bone-conducting headphones built into them.
There you go. We're there.
It's there.
Wow, you're like prophetic, man.
Yeah.
Ooh, I called it.
Called it about a week too late.
Yeah, really.
And after you sent me the article about it.
I'll have to go back and look. I'm getting old.
Oh,
Perhaps not far before everybody will be riding around in horseless carriages. That's my prediction for 2019.
that's right. Oh, that's why people tune in.
Yes, it is. The witty banter.
I was going to say the prophecy, Ryan's prophecies. All right. Hey, Ryan.
Rob,
Where can people find us?
atbanter.com.
I hate you. They can also email us if they so desire. atbanterpodcast@gmail.com. Where else can they find us, Steve?
Well, let me see. We've got the Facebook feed, the Twitter feed, the Instagram feed, all of which I am no longer a part of. My mental health has never been better.
Yeah, and you know what? As of a couple days ago, Canadian Assistive Technology has an Instagram feed.
Yes, I saw. So you posted something.
Well, now.
Yes.
How about that?
And you've already got 12 likes.
I heard it. Well, I didn't hear about the likes, but I heard it was my picture. Don't know where you got the picture from, but
Yeah, I got it's right. There was a picture of Steve and Rick at the trade show, and a picture of Ryan at the podcast.
I got to tell you. Okay, so this optometrist out in Surrey referred this woman to us. Sent her our PDF catalog.
Yep.
And she opened up the PDF catalog on her iPad, and she's sitting there with her son, who I guess helps, advise her. And he looked at the pictures that we had listed there. He goes, "They look like a bunch of thugs. I wouldn't trust them."
Really?
Yeah.
What? Us thugs?
Thugs.
Yes.
you guys need to grow some hair.
Thug life. Yeah, that's right.
That's funny.
It's us. I guess it's all our neck tattoos and
That's right.
our sleeves of tattoos and
The love-hate tattoos on our knuckles.
yeah. If you're not gonna trust a bunch of white bread eating dudes,
Hey,
like
we've
us,
got just enough knuckles to tattoo AT Banter across the front of them.
Man.
We should all do that. We should all go get AT Banter on our knuckles.
Okay, Ryan, anniversary show topic achieved. That's what we're doing.
All right.
There we go.
Excellent. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you all next week.
This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canasstech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. Or call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840 or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com. Music provided by bensound.com.
Whoa, look at that. Master of the one take.